In the 1920s, people were pushing for a national park in the east like the ones in the west. By 1926, Congress said, okay, there will be one. But federal government's never paid for a parkland before to make it a national park. It was either already owned by the federal government or was donated outright to us by somebody rich. So, state of Virginia, if you want this park in your state, you have to buy the land and donate it to us. So for the next 10 years, the state of Virginia was going out trying to buy up this land, willing sellers first, and then unwilling, but the Virginia state legislature passed an eminent domain law that said they can take the land with proper payment for the purpose of building a park. That was challenged in the courts. Robert Vye was the last court case to reach all the way up through the Virginia Supreme Court and lose, and took it to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, being the excellent politicians they were, said, this is a matter for the state, and dropped it. They didn't rule on it. So that meant that Robert Vye had lost. And December of 1935, Virginia turned all their deeds over to the federal government, and that was when the park was established. They wanted to have a dedication ceremony down here. Well, not in December. So they moved it to July, and we had a dedication ceremony here. The dedication ceremony was 1936. But the president who did that had been really famous already for what he did for the country. 1929, just after the act to have the Congress, we had the Great Depression hit. Everybody's out of work. Well, not everybody. Everybody know what the current unemployment rate nationwide is? Average?
About 10%.
7.6. What was the worst it's been in the last 8 years?
12.
About 10,
12. 1929, during the Great Depression and on for a couple years, the unemployment rate was 25%. 1 out of every 4 boys or men that wanted a job couldn't find one. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt came into office during that time, and he said, we got to do something. And he had this thing called the New Deal, but the one we like to talk about, the program we talk about, is Civilian Conservation Corps. He said in a message to Congress on the 21st of March 1933, by the way, he took office in 1933 in March, so this is right after he came in, I propose to create a Civilian Conservation Corps to be used in simple work. More important, however, than the material gains will be the moral and spiritual value of such work. He wanted to put people to work. So he started the Civilian Conservation Corps, and they got it going the fastest way possible. He wanted CCC camps, camps of 200 men ready to work on conservation all over the country. There was only one organization who could have gotten that moving fast, and that was the Army. So the Army established the camps, and the Army, working with the Park Service, said, okay, you're going to have some camps in Shenandoah National Park to be, and they drove their trucks from Thornton Gap south, past Skyland, dropped off a truckload of 200 men there, and came here and dropped off 200 men up on the top of that hill. So that is the second CCC camp in the National Park Service, up on the top of that hill. They put them to work doing things like building the proper drainage around the road, which had already been started under President Hoover, under work relief funds, drought relief funds, and was being built by contractors. And the specifications weren't really good, so the roads were eroding away, things like that, so the CCC came in to fix that. I got a picture here, which really hard to show everybody, but there's 12 men, CCC boys, pulling on ropes to move a tree. 12 men moving a tree. Why didn't they just get a bulldozer over there and do that?
They weren't have any.
They had them. They were using them to build the road.
They wanted them to work.
They wanted to work. Roosevelt said, if I can hire 12 men to do a job with shovels, or 1 man with a bulldozer, hire the 12 men. That was the purpose, was get people to work. And they built the stone walls and the log rails along the road. They lived in Army barracks once they got them built. 30 men to a room. There were 6 barracks up here. the way the camp was run, the camp itself was managed by the Army, but the work was managed by the Park Service. So while they're in camp, the Army's in charge. We see a deer up there. Everybody will have an opportunity to see it. But please stop anytime you see anything worth pointing out. That's good.
There's this whitetail?
It's a whitetail.
Yeah.
It's moving very nicely now.
Yes.
He's browsing. Or grousing.
So they're living in barracks, doing the work the Army has them do. And you got all these people, and the Army's got maybe 4 people at most that are Army at that camp of 200 men. 1 or 2 officers, 1 or 2 sergeants. How do you maintain control over 200 men in those barracks? Well, the boys were getting $30 a month, which was good money then, but they could only keep 5 of it. The other 25 was to be sent home to their families that were on relief. So they sent that home, and then they went into a barrack and said, okay, you look pretty intelligent. How would you like to be the barracks leader? You get an extra $10 a month you get to keep for yourself if you keep the job as barracks leader. You keep it if no problems come to us at the office. If we have to get involved, we're appointing a new leader. Worked well. I saw it work when I was in the Army, where nobody was really supposed to maintain the order in a barracks that we were in, and one guy refused to get up early enough in the morning to help clean the barracks for inspection. He just, no, I'm going to sleep till the last minute. Everybody argued with him, he just went away. And this little specialist, E4, he was a short guy. He came in, looked at the guy's bunk, and the guy was sleeping on an upper bunk. He says, get up and grab him up. The guy says, no. Get up and grab him up. The guy says, no. Grabs the double bunk and pulls it over. Gets to the floor, grabs the guy before he knew what happened, threw him against the lockers, said, get him up. The guy went and got him up. It wasn't all work. They had recreation. Weekends or after work, they got to play ball. The best ball field in the CCC was right up Furnace Hill. But what do you do when you're one of 200 young men up here, miles and miles and miles from the nearest town? What are you really thinking about?
Women.
Girls. So they had dancing lessons. And the dancing lessons so they could go into town to the dance hall and meet girls and not look stupid. That's fun money.
Yeah. And there's over there too. Yeah.
And another one over there.
Yeah.
If you walk through the trails, you have ones walk almost up to you.
When the boys finished the CCC about 9 years later, because December 7th, 1941 happened, Pearl Harbor, CCC was quickly closed down. The law that enabled it never went away. It's still legal to run a CCC camp, but there's no funding for it. This was a quote from one of the boys when he finished. One fact is certain, no boy left an enrollment period in the Blue Ridge Mountains unchanged and without having some way changed the mountains. We have been holding CCC reunions for the boys that worked in Shenandoah National Park for quite a while. Last year we had, I believe it was 3 boys still left. They say it was the best thing that ever happened to them. It taught them to be men. And when that December 7th happened, and those young men who had been through the CCC all of a sudden flocked to the armies and the navies, they became the leaders, because they already knew how to work hard. And they knew how to get a job done. And they knew how to throw a guy off the top bunk. So here we come with a dedication ceremony, 1936.